Hi and welcome to the channel. Today we will build another SFF PC using this S300 case. I previously reviewed the S400 and it was overall a positive feedback. With that, I decided to review the S300 to see if it will be better or worse than its bigger brother. I bought this for 4,680 pesos, which is actually a bit more expensive than the S400. Around the case, it is pretty much the same as S400. It has mesh side panels on both sides, solid front, the top is also a mesh with a handle, and a perforated bottom. As for the side panel ports, it has a power switch, a USB-A, and a USB-C. At the back, there are two cutouts, one for the motherboard and one for the GPU, and it has a power plug here. To open the side panels, you need to unscrew the screws at the back, two on each side. The side panel on the motherboard side has a magnetic dust filter attached. I received a bit dirty one in my opinion. And beneath that is a paper with spec list on the left and manual on the right. There is an accessory box. Inside it are zip ties and screws. As for the cables, it has a power extension cable, USB-C, USB-A, and a bundled front panel switches. Anyway, let's build. First step is to install the bottom fans. The case is compatible with two bottom fans. One 120mm slim fan at the back and an 8010 at the front. But I don't have an 8010 fan, so I'm going to install a 120mm slim fan. Be sure to place the fan correctly though. I placed it wrongly in a way that the fan extension cable really hit the side panels. Anyway, I reoriented the fan correctly and screwed it to the case. Next is to install the riser. I just positioned it first without actually screwing. Next is to tackle the motherboard. As for the components, I'll be using the usual B550i Aorus Pro AX as a motherboard. The processor is a Ryzen 7 5800X. RAM is a Kingston Fury non-RGB 32GB 3200MHz CL16 RAM. I also pre-plugged the CPU 8-pin power connector as it is usually hard to reach. And as for the cooler, I used the Alpenfohn Blackridge cooler in overclocking slim mode for a total height of 62mm. I also installed the fan tips as I haven't done so. I then tried to install the motherboard to the case, but I had a small difficulty as the PSU bracket is in the way. With that, I removed the PSU bracket first. This is secured by two screws on the motherboard side and one screw at the GPU side. After that, you can install the motherboard to the case. It is a bit tight thanks to the riser at the top and fan at the bottom, but it wasn't difficult. Before screwing the motherboard to the case, I also installed the CPU cooler fan. I also plugged the bottom fan's header to the motherboard. And since the fans are at the bottom of the case, you are against gravity. You then have to tuck the cable so that it will not fall to the bottom fan. Anyway, after so many delays, it is time to screw the motherboard to the case. I used the typical looking motherboard screw, which has a crown. Plug the riser to the motherboard's PCIe by 16 lane, plug the front panel USB 3, plug the bundled power switch, and as for the USB-C, I just hid it at the bottom as I have no header for it. Plug the 24-pin cable now as it might be difficult to reach again later. As for the PSU, I'll be using the FSP Dagger Pro 850W SFX Gold power supply. Screw the PSU to the PSU bracket, plug the 24-pin cable and CPU power connector to the PSU, plug the power extension cable, and turn on the PSU. Well, mine was already turned on, but for demo purposes, I turned it off and on again. Screw the PSU bracket to the case, push the PCIe power connector to the other side of the case in preparation for GPU installation. I also tucked some cables below the case just to declutter a bit. Again, if you're doing this for permanent build, I suggest to have zip ties to make it cleaner. I also noticed the USB 3 cable to be protruding, so I tied it together with the power cables. I tried to close this side of the case and it was bulging. To be clear, it's not the case's fault but mine. I want to push the CPU cooler limits. The last part of the installation would be the GPU. To prep for that, I had to remove this thing and the PCIe covers. Anyway, as for the GPU, I'll be using the Gigabyte RTX 3060 Gaming OC. Plug the PCIe power connector to the GPU, plug the GPU to the riser, make sure that the power cables are out of the way, and install the GPU to the case. Screw the GPU riser to the case, screw the GPU baffle to the case, and screw this thing to the case as well. What's left is to install the side panel. For the motherboard side panel, if your cooler is beyond spec, then you have to push the side panels further. After this, I thought that the build was done, but no, I forgot one screw to the PSU bracket. Good thing it was accessible as my GPU isn't that tall. Finally, close the side panel again, and it's time to test the case. For thermal benchmark, I tested the case in 6 cooling configurations. I tested the bottom fans in exhaust and intake modes, and also without fans at all. I also tested if removing the dust filters will help. And as for the temps while benchmarking Cinebench R23 for 30 minutes, the CPU temps hovered at 90 degrees Celsius for all configurations, which is expected. The GPU fans spin quite frequently and more consistently when there's a dust filter, and a bit less without dust filter. As for the CPU temps while benchmarking FF15 in 1440p for 30 minutes, without any fans, the CPU temps averaged at 74 degrees Celsius. With an intake fan and dust filter, it averaged at 73.84 degrees Celsius, while with an exhaust fan config, it averaged at 71.87 degrees Celsius. Removing dust filters will yield around 0.4 degrees Celsius to more than a degree Celsius cooler depending on configuration. As compared with the S400 with similar components, the S300 with an exhaust fan config is 1 degree Celsius cooler than the S400 with a single fan. However, if you add a fan to the S400 can be cooler by 1.6 degrees Celsius to 2 degrees Celsius. As for the GPU temps, it averaged at 73 degrees Celsius in intake and fanless config. With an exhaust config, the GPU temps averaged at 71.63 degrees Celsius, which is 1.5 degrees Celsius cooler than the intake config. By removing the dust filter, it can improve the temps in exhaust config by a significant 0.8 degrees Celsius. As compared with the S400 with the same single fan config, they are pretty much at par. And again, the dual fan S400 can outperform the S300's exhaust config by 1.7 degrees Celsius to 2.5 degrees Celsius. As for hotspot temps, there's nothing worth noting as it just scaled linearly. The same goes for fan speeds. Nothing worth noting as it just scaled linearly. Overall, the temps are acceptable, same as S400 with a single fan config, and if you're going to buy this case, install the bottom fan in exhaust config. As for dislikes to the case, these are pretty minor. For one, the screw of the GPU baffle is quite hard to reach as it is hindered by the power extension slot. Second is that like S400, I would like to highlight again that this case has no website. Since there is no branding, there is less accountability other than the retailer's words. This is important in case there are more serious problems as well. As for the likes, well, they made an effort to put two fan mounts at the bottom with such limited space. While it is very hard to find a decent 8010 fan, at least you have an option. And lastly, the bundled front panel switches. I still like those. And as for overall recommendations, on its own, it's not bad. I can see why you would want to buy the case. However, as compared with the S400, the S400 is actually priced the same as the S300, making it competitor to each other. While S400 is bigger, for me it isn't really that much bigger. And with its size, you get overall better compatibility and better cooling potential. But if you want minimum desk space, I could recommend Metalfish G5 Plus instead. G5 Plus is actually just 6% bigger in terms of desk area. Most of its volume is actually on the height as it is capable of installing two 120mm regular sized fans at the top. And with that, G5 Plus is superior in terms of cooling both CPU and GPU. And even better is that G5 Plus is a lot cheaper than the S300. At 3,700 pesos or $65, you have a case with PCIe 3 riser already. So in short, go for the S400 if you like the looks, but if you're into desk space, performance, and budget, go for G5 Plus. Though if you like both looks and desk space, then yes, S300 it is. Anyway, that's it for this video. Do comment down below on what you think of this case. Thanks for watching. Do like or dislike and subscribe for more unboxing, SFF builds, and benchmarks. Bye!